Hey guys, welcome to episode 3 of this season of History for Gays. The name of this episode is Post-Independence, Current State of Affairs. In case you are new or are a returning listener and forgot my name, hi, my name is Victoria and I love history. As you guys may have heard, this is the last episode of the season. I know, I'm just as sad as you are. But this is not the end of the show. No, it isn't. In fact, I will meet back up with you guys again in a couple months to explore our next topic, which for now remains a secret. I hope you guys understand and will wait patiently as there is research to be done and facts to check. This episode is all about the modern Ivory Coast, beginning with the presidency of Felix, pardon my mispronunciation, Houphouët-Boigny in 1960. So without further ado, put on your exploring shoes and let's take it back. And finish up in modern days, actually. During Houphouët-Boigny's presidency, the Ivory Coast was thought to be the most stable out of all Western African countries. It is said that this stability is due to the fact that the president took on a more conservative mentality compared to other African heads. This can explain why the RDA had aligned with communist ideas. And if you don't know what the RDA is, check out the previous podcast episode. These beliefs caused Ivory Coast to have a one-party system, believing that a multi-party system would discourage unity. Which, and to me that makes sense, but also it doesn't allow for the people to have their own versions of what they think should be true and what they think should be the government. And as the states no longer had French support, it was very difficult for the nations to establish economic stability. Nevertheless, Felix Houphouët-Boigny stimulated the farmers to export more produce, namely the production and exportation of cocoa beans, coffee, and palm oil, with cocoa beans being the most popular. Also, during his pregnancy, did I just say pregnancy? Oh my god, he's a man, he can't be pregnant. Unless this was a dystopian novel, but it's not. Anyways, also during his presidency, the country was very inviting to immigrants, and this acceptance continued until about 1990-ish. Also, the religious divide between the Muslim North and Christian South was not as polarizing as it had been. But the downside to having large exports and immigrants in and out is the amount of human trafficking that occurred, which is just terrible to me that people would exploit something that is helping their own country, especially after they were just under colonial rule. And now bringing it closer to today, in 1999, there was a military coup. After Houphouët-Boigny died in 1993, the state was very unstable, and the government was overthrown in 1999. The president at the time was Henry Konan Bedie, who replaced Houphouët-Boigny. Following the coup, of course, the economy collapsed. However, it had been worsening for years, gradually suffering more and more under Houphouët-Boigny. Bedie just made the situation even worse. As a society, there is still that division between the Islamic North and Christian South. Those that had attempted to become president after Houphouët-Boigny's death spouted ethno- and religio-centric messages. There were attempts to have the South turn against the North. One of the presidents created the concept of Ivoirite, also known as Ivoirness. This is to divide pure in quotation marks, Ivorians from those with only one native parent or were an immigrant. With all this rhetoric being spewed, the Muslim immigrants began to be exiled, being told that the Ivorians were taking back their land and waters. Now, doesn't this sound an awful lot like what immigrants are told in the United States? What they have endured and stuff, especially during President Trump's administration. In 2000, there was a very controversial election in which Laurent Gbagbo became president. And then in 2002 to 2007, there was a civil war that really divided the country even more between, quote, Muslim rebel-held North and government-controlled Christian South, unquote, from the BBC. There was a second civil war in 2011 as a result of the 2010 elections. These elections were supposed to be organized in 2005, but were postponed until November of 2010. People did not like that Alassane Ouattara won over Gbagbo, and he refused to step down. There was a conflict between Gbagbo supporters and those that recognized Ouattara as the winner. The opposing sides consisted of Gbagbo supporters and Ouattara supporters. There were negotiations to try and pull the presidency to one side or the other, and then violence soon broke out. Both the UN and France had to take action. Gbagbo was arrested in April 2011 for crimes against humanity. No, not the card game, actual crimes against humanity. He stayed in Belgium until June of this year after being acquitted. And here's a photo of those that were internally displaced during the brief war. The war only lasted a couple of months, but the civil war caused so much unrest in the country that people were displaced. And now, listeners, as you can see, or I suppose hear, because it's a podcast, America is not the only country that carries disdain for those of the Islamic faith. Now, I know not all of you listeners are American, but I'm sure you all know about this country and its views on Muslims after the September 11th attack. To me, it is vile that Muslims have so much hatred against them, especially in the Ivory Coast, where Islam was brought there far before Christianity was. Whew, well, I do believe I just covered a lot of information, and I think I need a nap, to be frank. So, the question of the day is this: how does a colonial power still have influence over the independent state long after its independence? Think about that. This has been your host, Victoria, and it's time to take off your exploring shoes now, folks.